morning or good afternoon. Welcome from my side. My name is Chi-Hao Huang from the Partner Solution Adoption Team. And today we are thrilled to have our Chief Product Owner of Cloud ALM, Michael Klöfer, to talk about SAP Cloud ALM and how does this tool help us to manage the end-to-end implementation of the RISE projects. So in this session, he will guide us through the tool and give you some ideas about the clean core concepts and in general, how does that fit into the whole picture in terms of Cloud ALM. And during the session, in case you have any questions, so please leverage the Q&A part. So we will, in the back end, try to answer your question. And in the end, we will also have some time to let you ask questions, and we will also do the answering, yeah? Good, thank you. That's all from my side. So over to you, Michael.
Thanks a lot, Chi. So as Chi said, my name is Michael Klöfer. I'm the Chief Product Owner for Implementation in Cloud ALM. And in the session, I want to take you, first of all, a bit through Cloud ALM itself and give you an overview what Cloud ALM is before we deep dive into the RISE methodology and the Clean Core methodology and how Cloud ALM supports you in your journey with RISE. And of course, we will have demos in between, but I spared some time for demos at the end, so we can also dig a bit into the details, what Cloud ALM really brings to the table and how you can leverage in your projects. Before we start with the overview, most of you probably already heard about Cloud ALM. Cloud ALM is our new kid on the block. It's a complete cloud-based offering that helps customers go into the intelligent enterprise. We support, of course, cloud-centric customers, but we also support hybrid and on-prem customers. And at the end, in the meantime, we have support for all the components of the intelligent enterprise. And RISE with SAP is, of course, one of the central components of such a strategy. Cloud ALM itself is a public cloud solution. It's built from scratch on modern cloud technology, and it's ready for immediate consumption. So basically, you can just decide to use it. You need to provision it. It takes around 15 minutes, 20 minutes to perform the provisioning, but then you can directly start it. And the best thing about it, it's very, very cost efficient for customers because the usage rights are included in the subscription or the maintenance contract of the customer, so in Enterprise Support Cloud Editions or in Enterprise Support. And all the operations costs and so on, as it's a public cloud solution, are included because we, SAP, maintain all that for you. So when we look into the box, what's in Cloud ALM, we have 4 major areas that we're working on. So we are in the innovation adoption. So that's implementing solutions, that making sure that customers are ready to adopt the latest innovations of SAP. Then after the first go live, it's about keep your business running, making sure that no degradations happen in the system, and if something goes wrong, that you can automatically fix it. And then, of course, it's also kind of a collaboration platform between SAP and customers because we have service delivery integrated, and more services are being onboarded to that so that customers can book SAP services from Cloud ALM, but also receive the results and the actions and reports within Cloud ALM and discuss with SAP on that. And a new central part of Cloud ALM is keeping your core clean. So how do you ensure that you embark on a clean core journey? How do you move your systems forward, get the systems cleaner, and be ready for more innovation from SAP? Some facts and figures, I already mentioned that, but from a license and from a cost perspective, Cloud ALM is included in the Enterprise Support and in the Enterprise Support Cloud subscription. So the maintenance and operations are done by SAP. We have some memory included, and API usage is also included. Of course, if you exceed that, then there is cost associated to that, but we expect that not many customers do that. And as a matter of fact, not even 10% of our customer space is even in close range to that at the moment. So then the supported solutions, so we support basically every solutions from SAP, may it all be all the cloud solutions like S4 Public Cloud, like Ariba, like SuccessFactors, like CX Service, and so on. But also all the on-prem solutions, we do PIPO monitoring, and we are even open for non-SAP solutions. And it's a cloud native solutions available within a few minutes. We deliver new code to production every day. So we do daily delivery. If there is anything going wrong, we can fix everyday problems in the system. But we also have bi-weekly feature releases. So this means every second week, we enable new features on Cloud ALM, keep it up to date, and provide our customers with new functionality. When we look into the implementation part of Cloud ALM, we have 4 major building blocks. It's design, build, test, and deploy. And let me just take you through them. So designing is all about how do you consume best practice content? How do you run fit to standard workshops? How do you manage your requirements that come out of fit to standard workshops? Then we have everything in build, where it's about all the activities that need to be performed, all the extensions that need to be built, everything that needs to be configured. Also, all the project management functionality is in there. We have a complete agile project management environment that you can leverage and break down at the end requirements that come from design into user stories and tasks, assign them to sprints, and really track that your project is on track. Then we're going into the quality management aspects of that with testing, where you manage all the tests. So it may be integration tests, maybe acceptance tests. It can be manual testing, but it can also be automated tests. So we have there integration into S/4HANA Public Cloud Test Automation tool, but we also bring a OEM version of Tricentis test automation with us, so that you can basically also script your own tests in an automated fashion and run them against the production system for integration, for regression, but also then later on for acceptance tests, leveraging our manual testing capabilities. And if there are any defects, you can also cover them in Cloud ALM. And then a very huge and important point for our customers is always deployment. So how do we manage all the artifacts that come out of the project? So maybe transports in an ABAP system, very classical TMS transports, but also stuff that is built on the BTP. So if there are own extensions, if there is content that is developed on BTP, like in Analytics Cloud, like in process integration, cloud process integration, or other sub-build related artifacts. So all these artifacts can be managed through Cloud ALM in a central fashion, so that we collect all the transports that come out. So an ABAP transport next to a BTP transport, next to a S/4HANA on-prem transport. And then we are able to manage these transports centrally in Cloud ALM and move them through your DQ and P landscape, so that at the end, we can ensure a successful go live. No transport is forgotten. All the fixes that come out of defects are included, and we have a successful go live for the customer. And across all of that, it's always about we have integrated analytics and end-to-end traceability, so that you can trace at the very end, if you have a transport, back to from which process is this coming? What was the requirement originating for that transport? What were all the user stories? How was it tested with the different automatic and manual tests? And then when did it go to production? So an end-to-end traceability and audit trail is always integrated in all our capabilities. So I already, exchanged a bit of the terminology that we use. So when we are in design, we're talking about processes. We're talking about the documentation of the customer of these processes. We're talking about requirements, and then we're going to take that into build, where we have projects, we have tasks, we have user stories. In testing, we have test plans, test cases of the different kinds, and we have defects. And then at the end, in deployment management, we have a release management capability together with features that we deliver to the production system, where we collect transports and then later on fixes. And across all of that, we have an end-to-end methodology that helps you really move from one capability to the other, and that explains you how this all relates together. And that is built on the Activate methodology of SAP. So SAP Activate and the best practice content are integral content pieces from SAP that we reuse in Cloud ALM. So you can generate yourself a project plan in Cloud ALM that is based on the Activate methodology and on the Clean Core Success Plan that we now just recently released. And all of that is available as a living environment in Cloud ALM. I mentioned the integrated analytics and the full traceability across the board, so from beginning to end. And in addition, we have open APIs. So if a customer chooses to leverage other functionality, or if they have established functionality, so we know from customers, most customers use somehow Jira to manage non-SAP developments. We have the APIs and the integration points to integrate that into Cloud ALM. Or you manage defects with a third-party ticketing tool, so we can integrate the defect management with a third-party ticketing tool. We have the integration for the processes to integrate a process library also coming from outside, and so on and so on. And all these APIs are open and available, and they are also leveraged by partners to extend Cloud ALM. So if we go into a bit into the details, let's have a look at the design piece. So in design, we do scoping for the customers. We use the best practice packages where we have the accelerators. You can choose which of these processes you actually want to implement. And for all of the processes, we have available the descriptions, the process flows, the test scripts, the setup instructions, and so on. And you can attach your own documentation there if you do technical specifications, process designs, and whatever. Next thing is that we have BPMN diagrams also coming from the standard content that explain you how a process runs, and you use that in Fit to Standard workshops to create requirements on the process landscape of the customer. If the processes are to be changed, we have an integrated process editing environment so that you can also adapt these processes and make them customer specific. But of course, our idea is that you always stick very close to the standard. And then at the end, we have traceability, like you can see here, where you can see all the processes of a customer, which requirements are there, in which status are there, how are the tests prepared, are the tests executed, and so on. So we have a very complete environment to manage the complete design process at the customer. Next thing that we want to go into do is the build area, so the project and tasks, SAP Activate, and so on. And if we look in there, we have a project management environment where you can set up multiple projects. These projects have phases, have sprints. There's a team assigned to that. We have the scope of the projects with all the deliverables and the connection to the landscape of the customer. In the task list that is built on Activate, we provide you with tasks, with descriptions, with accelerators, and so on. We have a Gantt view on that. And just recently, we released also a cards view. So when you're running an agile project, you can manage it also completely within Cloud ALM and move cards around in daily stand-ups. Again, we have integrated reporting where you always see where your project is currently at. You see task trends, project reports, and so on. So basically, also here, we have everything that you would need from a project manager's perspective to always judge, is my project on track and how is it going? Next is testing. So in testing, we're talking about test planning, manual testing, automated testing. I mentioned that we have Tricentis test automation integrated, but at the end, it's also about defect management and making sure that if something goes wrong, nothing is forgotten. And just to show you also here, so we have test cases of different kinds. So first of all, we have manual test cases, so procedural descriptions with connections to requirements and user story for traceability. We have automated test case like here in Tricentis test automation that you can use. And these test cases that you either get from standard content or you create manually, you assign together in test plans, cover multiple test cases, assign it to testers, and then you execute these test cases. Like here, we execute an automated test case that runs in the background and then gives us back the information. And from there, you can create defects in case anything go wrong, assign these defects to persons, and have a complete defect management follow-up process together again with analytics for test execution, views, but also for defect reporting, where you can see where you currently stand with all the defects. So that's testing. And then at the end, it's about deployment management. So how do we manage all the artifacts that fall out of projects in transports, typically in an SAP environment? And there we have an entity that is called a feature. And this feature has a status flow and so on. But at the end, it collects transports that you can also create like in an ABAP system from the system itself. And then we have all the different transport kinds. So we have ABAP transports, we have CPI transports, we have SAC transports, we have ATO transports. So the different transports technologies that exist within SAP are collected within a feature. And the feature can then later on be also moved from Cloud ALM, from a D system to a Q system to a production system. So we can also trigger the transports. We're currently working also on automating all of that. Again, we have traceability so that you can see for all the features, what's the status of my transports? Are they successfully released from the development system? Are they successfully imported in the queue system? And of course, you can also identify if something goes wrong. So in that example here, we see that there was an error at the import in the production system where an import failed. And we can jump to the feature, see which transport caused the error, and then also start fixing that by going to the system, creating another transport, changing an existing transport. So that was a very, very quick overview about Cloud ALM for implementation. And the next thing I want to go into a bit more detail is RISE and Clean Core and how that relates to Cloud ALM. So you all know the Clean Core. You know that the goal is that we have a core system that we try to keep clean, to be able to update, to be able to consume innovations from SAP. And we have the 5 dimensions, so process, integration, extensibility, data, and operations. And what we now did is we took these dimensions and looked at that and explained what do we provide from Cloud ALM perspective already today for these 5 dimensions. And of course, we're working on more, so there will be new functionality announced in a few months. But right now, we're having, for example, when you look at the process dimension, we have already today the consumption of the SAP best practice content. You can run your fit to standard workshops, do the requirements. You can design custom processes within Cloud ALM. But we also have operational capabilities for business process monitoring to make sure that your business processes run stable and efficient. And we have the integration with the SAP readiness check that helps you in moving to S4 by remediating simplification items and making sure that your old processes that are running on your ECC system are then again running with new functionality in S4. In extensibility, it's more about custom code and custom code management also. And here, the main feature that we have, we manage hybrid deployments or have hybrid developments where we can, if you are in an S4 system and want to keep your core clean, you are best advised to build extensions on BTP. And here we manage these hybrid development scenarios where you have some coding in ABAP, in the S4 system, but you build your extensions on BTP and we manage the transport to the production system in a consistent manner. Of course, also there, it's important that we have testing capabilities to make sure that these extensions are properly tested and fulfill all the requirements. We have the support for agile build processes with user stories and the connections to the features, but we also provide monitoring capabilities that help you to monitor these custom built components on BTP. And there we just also announced the observability platform in Cloud ALM, where we use open telemetry to collect information also from non-SAP environments, as well as, of course, BTP, and bring that in Cloud ALM to make sure that these custom components or these non-SAP components are running well. And again, the readiness check also provides very valuable input here, because there you get custom code metrics and you get custom code adaptation recommendations to make sure that you can remove the custom code of the customer or adapt the custom code so that it runs on S4. In the data area, we provide data consistency and data volume monitoring, but also the readiness check has some integrated capabilities on data quality that help you identify data quality issues and remediate these data quality issues, especially in the area of financial data quality. And then in integration, it's about managing the integration documentation. So which interfaces exist, from where to where do they go, what's the technology used, and how do you debug and how do you restart these interfaces if they go wrong. We can manage CPI deployment. So if CPI is used as a information broker between systems, then Cloud ALM can manage the configuration and the content from CPI. And then, of course, we have, and that's a major thing there, it's the interface and exception monitoring, so that after the fact, if anything goes wrong, we can always monitor all the interfaces and exceptions that go, if something goes wrong. And then in the operations area, so when you are live with your system, we provide you with full stack monitoring capabilities in the operations area of Cloud ALM, business service management, also to have a communication platform with the customer. We have automated regression testing capabilities. We have release management that helps you, manage ongoing releases in the operations section. In the operations phase. And then we have the readiness check for S/4HANA upgrades that is used to identify what are the changes coming in an S4 upgrade and what do you actually need to do before you do the upgrade. I prepared some demos in here that we can look at. And first of all, it's about what's a clean process. So if we want to dig into that, I'll just jump to Cloud ALM. So we're logging now in, and now we are in the process section of Cloud ALM. And I wanted to start here because now we have all the best practice processes from the content. And you see we are now in asset accounting. And on the right-hand side, I get descriptions for what is asset accounting, how does the process flow look like. I get the task tutorials. I can also jump to the process navigator to really see that. But the nice thing is we can dig down in here to solution process flows, and that's BPMN diagrams at the end that explains you how asset accounting is running within S4. And we have there multiple flows. So we have how's the master data maintained, how do you manage acquisition, how do you manage retirement. So it's a complete environment that you can use. And in here, you basically then can start also creating requirements, attaching user stories, and so on and so on. So that's the running a fit to standard workshop within Cloud ALM. So then the next thing is extensions or extensibility. And there I already explained, that we want to avoid extensions, of course, whenever possible. But if you build extensions, build them extend on stack within on stack extension capabilities or side by side with BTP. And here I wanted to show you also thank you very much. Let me just do that again. So here I wanted to show you the feature management that we also saw in the demo before. So here I created a clean core feature, and this clean core feature has multiple transports attached. So you can see there is one transport here coming from CPI, where we do some OData mapping within the S4, within the CPI system. And this CPI workflow is then connected to an ABAP system. You see, this is here the O12 system, where we build a customizing transport and a breakpoint transport. And of course, we can now look at this transport and hand it over to test as soon as we are, and also manage the release of the transport and the deployment of the transports to the next stage. So the feature and our deployment capabilities are here used to make sure that if you start building extensions, either on stack with ABAP transports or side by side, then that you have one central place to manage the deployment of all these features. Then data. In data, I talked about, it's about, first of all, making sure that your data is accurate, complete, consistent, valid, and so on. And But it's also about how to make sure that the data volume is not exaggerated, that you can start with archiving, keep your footprint as small as possible, that you follow the GDPR rules, that we can, also remove personal master data. All of that belongs to that. And one thing that I wanted to show you in here is the readiness check. Because the readiness check, we will go to the readiness check also later to show a bit more, but amongst all of that, the readiness check provides data quality KPIs. So you see that there is some also data quality issues for the customer vendor integration, but when we look at financial data quality, there's a very deep analysis of the financial data within the ERP system before you move to S4, with recommendations on how to clean up these inconsistent documents. And you see there are manual corrections that can be made. There are corrections which can be done automatic or semi-automatic. There are system-specific corrections required, and there are also recommendations where you have to contact SAP support. And from here, you can drill down to the financial data quality dashboard and, for example, look at all the corrections, that can be done customer specific, where a balance in a table is not zero and the transaction currency, whatever. Or, wait a sec, if we go to category C, where we see there we have we identified inconsistencies, and you should contact SAP support because SAP support can help the customer to clean up these inconsistencies. Next is about integration, and I wanted to show you also something from the operation side. So because the idea is that when we do integrations in a clean core scenario, that we avoid transactional APIs like RFCs and iDocs, and rather rely on standard APIs with OData and so. We do the extensions side by side, leveraging the integration suite, and realize loosely coupled extensions. But the question is, okay, so now I have built my extension. So how do I monitor if something is going wrong? And there we have the integration monitoring capabilities within Cloud ALM, where we can monitor multiple integration scenarios. And I just wanted to show you that we have there also an integration here, for example, that is an integration of S4 with Ariba, and you can see that there's a message exchange between Ariba network and S4, and you can then drill down also here into the details and see, do the messages succeed? Do they go wrong? And if they go wrong, you can drill into the details of each of these messages and see what's the reason for the error. Was there a booking that went wrong? Or like here, we had server errors, we had authorization errors, and so on and so on. So basically, we can monitor the complete flow of the integrations and make sure that after we build extensions or after we integrated S4 with different systems, that these integrations also run consistently and do not cause any errors, during operations. And then last but not least, it's operations in itself. And of course, it's about health monitoring. It's about the full stack monitoring. It's about making sure that the systems behave like they should behave. But I wanted to dig here also into business process monitoring, because as soon as you designed your processes, you implemented these processes and released them to production, you also, of course, want to make sure that these processes run well. And in business process monitoring, we have their capabilities to monitor the SAP systems in a business process monitoring from a mission critical exception perspective. So we are not talking about business process improvement scenarios here. We're really looking at, do these processes run, and do we have any exceptions occurring that hinder my business? And like you can see, I'm digging here into design to operate processes, and I see in procure to receipts, there are currently 360 overdue purchase requisitions. So, and it's increasing and increasing. So the question is, why is it increasing? Is nobody working on these things? Is there an integration issue maybe behind, because we replicate them into another system, into Ariba, and so on. So basically, these are all KPIs that are monitored completely out of the box, completely automatic. So there's no big configuration needed. And we look into the system and make sure that these systems are really running also from a business perspective. I know I'm, running through all the functionality, but there's still something that I wanted to show you before we go into the Q&A, and that is that we see also Cloud ALM as an integration platform for all the different tools that we have at SAP. So I already showed you here on top that we have the readiness check integrated with the custom code migration app. We have integration into DDA, which is used. We have the SAP Activate methodology that is directly uploaded. We have Tricentis test automation to manage all the tests. And we're currently working on integrating also the development environment closer to Cloud ALM, so that if you wanna, if you need to change some code, that you can jump from Cloud ALM directly as a developer into the ADT and then do the fixes. But from a partner perspective, there's one thing that I wanted to mention, that we have the open APIs. So for the task perspective, but also for the feature, we're currently working on APIs with the idea that if partners bring their own tools to the game, you can also integrate it with Cloud ALM. So if you have own scheduling tools that can be integrated via the task API, if you have own tools that manage features and codes, they can be integrated using the feature API, and we have many, many more APIs. But the idea is really that we position Cloud ALM at the customer as a central platform where SAP brings together all the tools and all the information for the customer, and partners plug into that as well. One thing that we just released a few weeks ago, and that's the queue gate management and the clean core success plan. So there's a new roadmap that is called the RISE with SAP methodology, the Clean Core Success Plan. And the Clean Core Success Plan is a very stripped down project plan that helps you establish a clean core mindset at the customer, establish a plan on how to run a clean core project, and then also helps you tracking it and interact with SAP. So basically also here we're leveraging the Activate methodology and importing that into Cloud ALM, into a special project. And we have the queue gates that customers run through, and these queue gates help customers and partners, to establish really this clean core mindset. So basically, it's questions that you're asked during the project on an ongoing basis, and with hints and recommendations how to do that. So, like, have you run the readiness check already? If not, please run the readiness check and look at the results, and so on and so on. And these queue gates are available within Cloud ALM, and you can run these queue gates in Cloud ALM. And again, it's an open infrastructure, so if partners bring also own queue gate content, you can put that separate also in Cloud ALM and have partner-specific queue gates that are run in Cloud ALM. So, and that's also what I now wanted you to demo at the end. Because if we jump into Cloud ALM, into the system itself, I created myself an own view, and I called that the runbook view, which is a bit stripped down and contains only the information from the Clean Core Success Plan. And what you see there is that we have a project, what's going on in the project, is there anything which is currently blocked in the project, and whenever there is something, I can click on the numbers and really get down to the details. So I see how is the project progressing over the phases, I see how many blocked tasks do I have again, and as I said, I can just click on that and then jump to my task list and get these 3 tasks which are currently blocked, directly. I can assign persons to that. So for example, here I am assigned, I could now say, yeah, that's all for myself, and I need to do that. I can also assign a team to that. I can change the scheduling information and the status, and I can all do with that directly in the system. I see what are the upcoming tasks, what do I need to do, like there are self-enablement questions in there, and the content of all of these items really comes from the Activate methodology. So we import that when you create a project, and then you get the access to all the information that explains you how to actually do this. The interesting point that I wanted to show you is here the queue gates. So I already said we provide that's new functionality, and we see in this project we have 2 queue gates existing. And if I go into one queue gate, you can see that this queue gate, you have a description, but then you have the questions of the queue gate, and you can also in here define who should do that. So imagine you're in a customer project, and let me just go here quickly to edit mode. Because you have then the possibility to say, okay, the data governance, this is done by the partner. Whereas the data clinic report, that should be done by an employee of the customer. And by doing so, you can differentiate in here, what's done by the customer, what's done by SAP, what's done by the partner, to also have a due diligence on who needs to do what. And then you run through that queue gate, you set the status, and this information is also transferred to SAP to a certain degree, because we have automated services running on that, providing you with recommendations and services on top based on the queue gates within the Clean Core project. And if you need, you can always create follow-up tasks here. So you can also define if something needs to be done, you create follow-up tasks, put them to the task list of the customer or the partner at the end, and really make sure that everything that needs to be done is tracked within Cloud ALM. The second thing I wanted to show you is again in the readiness check, because the readiness check is a very important source of information for Clean Core. And if we dig into one readiness check for the S4 conversion, you see there are many tiles. So it starts with the simplification items. So that's basically the identification of functionality that the customer is using in ECC, where there's a different approach in S4. You all probably know them. But when we go into that, we can look at the details of these items. And I'll just choose here 4 that I have in scope. You get the 4 things, and you see there's one for asset accounting here. So, and for all of these identified simplification items, you get a rating. So there's a potentially high effort by this one, because there's a change in the asset accounting when you compare ECC to S4. Then there's a note behind that. And this note explains in detail, what's the change if you from classical asset accounting to the new asset accounting in S4. So you can read that to really judge the import. But what we now added is that we have follow-up support here. So we can create follow-up activities that are attached to the project plan of the customer. And this is, you need to do the business decision, how you do it. Somebody needs to change a business, they need custom code adaptation, it needs to be customized. There is data that needs to be corrected and migrated. The interfaces need to be adapted. I need to define the new process. And of course, at the end, I need to do the user training to roll out the new asset accounting process. And let's just dig into one of those where we created a user story for the custom code adaptation. So you see, this is now again a user story within Cloud ALM. We see this user story is actually referenced from 2 readiness check items. So from custom code and to changes in data structures. And this is related to a feature. So I explained in the beginning, we have now a user story. Somebody needs to do some custom code adaptation, and that is described also in a note what you need to do. But if we go then to the feature, you see there are the transports that collect all the custom code adaptations that are necessary in order to prepare your S4 project. So we provide you with the full capability so that you don't only have the readiness check that tells you what you need to do, but you can create follow-up, track them, and really also do then the execution within Cloud ALM. And if I go back to the readiness check, that's the second thing that I wanted to show to you. I scroll down here to the custom code analysis. So you see, we also do an automatic analysis of custom code. And within Clean Core, the idea is always, to have as less custom code and modifications as possible. And if we dig there into the details, we see that there is some technical code adaptations that need to be done, where we have quick fixes available that cause errors. So I'm just narrowing down now, the findings of the readiness check. And again, you see there are field lengths that need to be adapted, there need the interfaces, and so on, always with the number of occurrences where we found these fixes that need to be done. Again, with a node that explains you what you need to do. So what are the field lengths that need to be attached? And the good thing is here we have quick fixes available for all of them. So we created also a user story here. And if I go to that user story, I can schedule it in a sprint that somebody needs to do it. I see that I need to perform the necessary code adaptations. I again have the relation back to the readiness check. I have my feature in here, but what do the new thing that I have a reference with the quick fixes. And this is something that we're currently developing. So that's only a mock-up that you see, but the idea is that you jump from here to a list of all the affected objects. So you have all the affected objects in here. You can jump into the ADT, into the development environment to actually then do the changes. And you have there the possibility to click the quick fix button for stuff where we can do the change automatically if these are simple fixes. So again, we're taking this always a step further, to better support a project. And that's basically everything that I wanted to show you as a demo within Cloud ALM. So let me switch back to the slides. As a summary, I would say I try to give you an overview about how does Cloud ALM help you in your projects? How does it relate to the RISE methodology and to the Clean Core? And for me, the most important takeaways are, it's available for all customers. It's available out of the box. There's no additional costs attached. We provide you with a harmonized implementation experience across the board. So from beginning, from the process design down to the transports that hit the system. And we always have built-in transparency and we have built-in traceability from all perspectives. So we think that Cloud ALM really helps you in your project. And the good thing is we come with the content within Cloud ALM, but you can always extend it with your own content, with your own tools, by our open APIs, by our import methodologies. And having that said, also I would hand it back to Chihao to tell a bit more about the RISE methodology.
So thank you, Mishael. So that was really informative and also it was a really great presentation. I do see that we have a lot of questions showing that you have great interest. So just a quick information here before we go to the Q&A. So we actually have one partner portal, RISE with SAP methodology. So here you can find all the links to our previous sessions and also the coming sessions. So the recordings, presentations will be made available there. And I will just attach the link to the chat so you can access that. So now we can come to the Q&A part. So we have 24 questions. That's quite a lot.
Quite some questions. So let me try to go through them. So there's one question, what to do if a customer has S4 on-prem. So how to ask for Cloud ALM provisioning. That's pretty easy. You go to SAP for me. There's the Systems tab. In all customers that are eligible for Cloud ALM can request Cloud ALM there. There's no special process even for on-prem customers. There's also no minimum S4 on-prem version. So we're just relying on STPI always being up to date in the customer system. Then next question is, what's the difference with Solution Manager? I would say Solution Manager and Cloud ALM are not competing, but Cloud ALM is our new cloud-based business, and we aim to have also the same level of functionality in Cloud ALM as we have in Solution Manager. Solution Manager is bound to the business suite maintenance contracts. So this means when the business suite goes into customer-specific maintenance into 27, also Solution Manager goes into customer-specific maintenance, later on extended maintenance. So we would we see Cloud ALM as the go-to platform for ALM tools. And of course, as I said, we're always extending it. So there is not all the functionality already available in Cloud ALM that we have in Solution Manager, but we're keeping up and we're enhancing this every second week with feature deliveries. So then there is a question about ITSM in Cloud ALM. So how to manage customer tickets, service requests, and so on. So we don't have support for ITSM in Cloud ALM. So that's one of the parts in Cloud ALM that we decided not to include. We have support of change requests and RFCs, that's in the deployment management, but when it's about tickets, service requests, knowledge base, and so on, problem management, there's no plan to have that features in Cloud ALM itself. There are partner solutions out there that extend Cloud ALM, but yeah, not in Cloud ALM itself. So in the case of RISE Grow, is Cloud ALM integrated to the list of new feature every version load so we can plan the new feature adoption? It is not integrated in the RISE Grow feature launch, but we have our own roadmap that's published in the Roadmap Explorer. We have own what's new calls, and we can also share together with the slides link to all of that so that you can register for our what's new calls and also see what's coming up in the next releases. So then the next question is, do we have a 4I principle feature planned for the features in Cloud ALM for audit reasons? And good news, yes. Bad news, not next week. So it's going to take us a bit. But we are currently working on approval workflow support. And this approval workflow support can also be extended with 4I principles, but we also want to have that natively in Cloud ALM. But this is going to take a bit of a while, but it's on the roadmap. So then there's a question of if we have all the features of Charm from Solution Manager already in Cloud ALM. Not yet. We're having many features of Charm already in Cloud ALM. We're currently working on retrofit, downgrade protection, cross-system object lock, critical object checks. And our plan is to release that over the course of the year, also these functionalities beginning of next year. So that's going to take us to, yeah, I would say half a year to catch up. But this is clearly on the roadmap, and I would say end of the year we will be in a very good position to replace it. Also a complicated Charm process with Cloud ALM. Then how does the readiness check in Calm replace complement compared to ATC for custom code remediation in a conversion? At the end, it does not compete because we are just reusing ATC. So the checks that you see in the readiness check are based on the ATC checks. It's just that we execute them, we collect the results, we put it in Cloud ALM in an execution environment, that is covering the complete process. So it's the same. The remediation results are the same from ATC. They are just used again in Cloud ALM in a different format. Okay, then there is a question about BPMN modeling, and that I didn't mention Signavio. Yes, that's absolutely right. I didn't mention Signavio. So we talked about Signavio very much in the past, and we are having a clear vision to also integrate with Signavio into one BPMN editing. The problem is that the Signavio colleagues have not yet a roadmap to do so. So we have published open APIs that are also used by other tools like with ARIS at the moment to integrate with Cloud ALM. Signavio is working on that. But the idea is that if a customer uses Signavio, you can then connect it to Cloud ALM and exchange the process models between Signavio and Cloud ALM. But I cannot give you any dates for that because that's at the moment completely in the hands of our Signavio colleagues. LeanIX is also on the roadmap. I didn't mention that. With LeanIX, we will release for Sapphire the first two integrations. And this is the integration of landscape discovery into LeanIX. And the second one is the integration of project management with LeanIX, with initiatives in LeanIX. We are also working on integration of monitoring data into LeanIX so that you can not only model your architecture in LeanIX, but also see how it's actually performing. And the idea is that we connect all of these three tools into a common platform. But this is a long way to go. And if there's interest, we can, of course, also have a session on that, how we want to evolve that. Then there's a question, can we use multiple projects in transport management for the same three system landscape? So from a Cloud ALM perspective, yes, you can. There's no limiting factor to not have multiple projects on the same landscape. Then there's another question on Signavio and Cloud ALM. So I think I already mentioned that. The planned innovations on Cloud ALM, we will share a link to the Roadmap Explorer at the end.
I did, yeah.
Super, super, Joe. So because we try to be as transparent as possible in the Roadmap Explorer and always give you the up-to-date information on what we're gonna deliver in the future. Then there's a question again on Signavio. So why should I design processes in Cloud ALM and not in Signavio? Two answers to that. Not all customers have Signavio, so then you should do it definitely in Cloud ALM because this is customer decision to buy Signavio. The second answer to that is at the moment there is no interface. So we can up and download processes manually to exchange processes, but the interfacing, as soon as the interfacing is there and the customer has Signavio, I would say model your processes in Signavio, transfer them to Cloud ALM, and then leverage Cloud ALM to implement them and to track the implementation. It doesn't end here. Then is the transport released from the transport organizer app? Yes, of course. You can release the transport from the transport organizer app, but you can also release it from Cloud ALM. At the end, it's the same. It's just a decision, where do you work and where do you release your transport. So what does stack extension exactly mean, and why is it acceptable in ecosystem? So stack extension means that you do in ABAP extensions in stack using our available APIs within the stack, not doing modifications, implicit or explicit modifications, because at the end also bodies and so on are still there, and that's in stack, and you manage then the in stack extension. There's also the possibility with Steampunk on ABAP, to do this in ABAP in ABAP on BTP, but this is again a completely different story. So readiness check is for customers who have an ERP system, but what if the customer comes from no systems or have public cloud? So if that's the case, then readiness check doesn't help, I have to admit. So if it's a greenfield customer or a public cloud customer, it doesn't help. Readiness check only helps if you have an existing ERP system or an S4 system. Also S4 private cloud, sorry. Is it possible to drill down from the dashboards of Cloud ALM into the concrete system? So the code, the extension, and so on. So yes, to a certain degree. I mean, if you have it on a transport, you can go to the transport. In the transport, you have the object list. You can navigate to the objects. I just showed at the end from the readiness check, we also can jump to ADT. But we're currently, as I said, we're evolving that. And we are currently also building more dashboards on Cloud ALM for Clean Core. And these will really help you to get down to the object level into the managed system. So absolutely. And there's a question about, is it possible in the meantime to use Cloud ALM in PMC context? So that's for SuccessFactors partners, probably most interesting. And the answer is no, there is no change in that. What we do currently is that we are enabling multiple tenants of Cloud ALM, and the plan is to have multiple tenants available by the end of the year. And that means that a PMC partner could also request multiple Cloud ALM tenants and then use one tenant per customer. So this is currently in the making, but it's not available yet. In the runbook overview comes by default in case if you choose the success plan. No, the runbook overview that you saw in the system, I created myself, and at the end, it was 2 minutes of configuration. I just created an overview, removed some cards, and then you have it. It's for me, it's just It's the same like the standard project overview. I just narrowed it down by personalization because sometimes the overview contains too many cards, and depending on the customer, on the end user's role, you want to have a shrunk down version. And that's why I created my own runbook overview. So this means we do several readiness check as well with ECC customers. The readiness check is different than the readiness check in Cloud ALM. No, it's the same readiness check. We just have the publicly available readiness check, and we have the readiness check in Cloud ALM. And the difference is that if you have the readiness check in Cloud ALM, you can create follow-up items in Cloud ALM. So this is not possible with the standalone readiness check that's available in SAP for me. But from a technical perspective, it's the same readiness check. The readiness check is developed in our team, and we reuse the same coding. But in Cloud ALM, we have the possibility to directly create follow-ups and track follow-ups. So my advice is always, if you do readiness checks, start thinking about Cloud ALM to do your readiness checks, because we will also extend the follow-up functionality. But from an analysis perspective and all the results and also on, that's absolutely the same. There is no difference. So how can we integrate Signavio is again a question. So I said it, we have interfaces. Signavio is currently implementing these interfaces, and I hope that they release it soon. Until now, we have manual up and download, and there is a consulting solution available that also does the integration by consulting coding. And I know that there's also PE service with some coding that does it, but the integration is not yet in Signavio standard. What's the best follow-up contact for regarding integrations? That's a good one. We will take it. I can't give you a name right now, but I think we will follow up. See how we need to look at that. I don't have it at the top of my head. Then the QGate functionality is available as a standalone readiness check or dedicated feature in Cloud ALM. The dedicated feature only available in Cloud ALM. The ADT link that I just showed is not yet available because there's a question if it's available or scheduled for the future. That was a mock-up that I showed you with the ADT link. This will come, I hope, very soon. I think it's scheduled for June timeframe around to be live. Then there's a question about, is Cloud ALM capable of monitoring systems for customers? And the answer is yes. So the system monitoring is not called system monitoring anymore. It's called health monitoring, but it contains comparable KPIs and monitoring capabilities that you know from there. And you can leverage the health monitoring in operations in Cloud ALM. Then there's again a question on ITSM. I think we answered the ITSM question before. Then there is, how do we confirm Cloud ALM use versus sole man and focus build? So the good news is there is an own readiness check for that, because you can run a readiness check on your solution manager, get an analysis and see how does it compare to Cloud ALM, what's available functionality, what's compared functionality, what's our roadmap. And the second part of the question is if sub-Cloud ALM is only for S4 public cloud and small RISE PCE. And my answer would be no. So Cloud ALM is for public cloud, for all cloud LOB solutions, and for PCE. Of course, if you have a very huge, very complicated project, with multiple landscapes and so on, then you would need retrofit and special charm capability. So there's always a small delineation at the end that you need to take to make sure that the Cloud ALM provides all the features. I think we should have solved that by the end of the year, beginning of next year. But also there, really look at the readiness check and do the decision case-by-case basis to use Cloud ALM. Also, the question is, if you start a project now, will be Cloud ALM ready when you need the functionality? And most of these projects run for a quite long time, and you should really look at it. and not only do the decision by now, but rather look at it from a time frame perspective. Then do we include landscape transformation in Calm in the future? I have to say, probably not, but I'm gonna take that and check with some colleagues because I can't tell you right now for sure. So we would need also to follow up on that one. So then I showed the graphical flows in ALM. So how does that interact with Signavio, and do we need both? So you don't need both. So you can do everything in Cloud ALM. Of course, Signavio provides more functionality and more features, and it's also not a competition with Signavio, but not all customers have Signavio. And as soon as we have the integration, of course, it would be a nicer customer experience because you can model in Signavio and transfer it to Cloud ALM. Any news on the business transformation side, selective data transition and time slice features? There I need to refer you to the colleague Stefanie Kübler. They are taking care of the selective data transition and the business transformation center. I know that the time slicing shall be released, but there we would need the experts. There's a question if Cloud ALM is recommended for ECC to S4 PCE for brownfield projects, and my answer is yes, it's our go-to platform. I mean, we really position Cloud ALM, we extend Cloud ALM in a very high speed. You have to look at the functionality that you need, but I would say yes, use Cloud ALM also for brownfield projects. As of now, defect management does not have deployment management, transport traceability included. So we have defect management included in traceability via indirect assignments. I didn't show that. It's probably a bit too detailed, but we can we can dig into that as well. We're currently working on relating a defect to a feature. So this is not yet available, but that's on the roadmap. I think that's Q3. But Charm has a connection to ITSM. So is it possible to send messages for the Charm requester and solving the request? So yes, we have APIs for that so that you can integrate requirements also with ITSM tickets in an internal system. We can exchange information. There are also partner solutions out there, you know, that do that for you. That's in our partner hub. You can see these solutions. So that's available. Of course, this is always customer individual. Which ITSM solution do you use? How how is the data exchange, data mapping, and so on. Is there any option for Cloud ALM for partners? Yes. So whenever you have a own solution as a partner, you also get the entitlement for Cloud ALM. So most partners also have SAP solutions under support. So they have an entitlement for Cloud ALM. What we do not plan is a specific partner instance of Cloud ALM with specific partner functionality. This is not in scope right now. There are solutions and workarounds that we have because partners bring their own content, they want to import it into the customer's tenant, but this is currently all on APIs. Is it possible to use groups of testers in testing? At the moment, we only have single testers, but we have a concept of teams already in tasks, user stories, and so on. We also want to bring this teams concept to test management, that you can manage a team of testers for test cases, but it's not yet there, but this is also on the roadmap. Then, are you supporting a drill down into BAS? That's Business Application Studio, I think. Or are you able to deploy MPA files? Do you support CI/CD's development? And the answer is yes, short answer. So we have an integration with CI/CD pipelines on BTP. We also showed that at the ALM Summit, and there are sessions available that show that. We can deploy MTA files using CTMS. The drill down to BAS is done via the CTMS integration. With the business, then there's another one on the Business Transformation Center. So Cloud ALM provides analysis and scoping solution for selective data transition. Who can do the migration? When will it be released? Again, they have to refer you to the experts, that's Stephanie Kübler and the BTC team. I cannot answer that right now. And the last one is, where can I follow up on this consultant solution regarding Signavio? That's done by the German consulting. I think the best contact on the Signavio side is Janis Mücke or Robin Schönwald to follow up on that in consulting. When on-prem for ERP systems will be continued, will there also be a roadmap for Solman on-prem systems besides Calm? Honestly, cannot answer. I don't know that on-prem maintenance contracts will be prolonged. I mean, S4, yes, but we are not planning to have another on-prem product beside Calm. So Calm will be the go-to platform also in the future for S4 on-prem systems. And we do not plan any on-prem product. The only thing in operations, we have Focused Run as a monitoring platform for service providers and huge SAP landscape. So Focus Run is also used SAP internally in ECS to monitor all the ECS systems. And this is also available for customers that manage their own data center, but this is only in the operations side. On the implementation side, Cloud ALM is our future go-to solution. Having that said, I think we are already 10 minutes over time. Sorry for that.
We are over the time. So yeah, I mean, in the afternoon we have another session. So in case your questions, does not get answered in this session, you can also join the next one. Yeah. So thank you very much, Michael. It's really great. A lot of content, and I hope the partners you also enjoy this session. So we will make the recordings and the content available in our partner portal. Yeah. So thank you very much again, and see you next time.
And you can always drop us a mail, follow us on LinkedIn, and get in touch with us.
Yes, sure. Okay. Bye-bye.